we are one day late, but we are about to talk about Friday the 13th, the series.
Yeah, so happy late Friday the 13th,
I
everybody.
mean, we could have talked about Saturday the 14th.
Yeah, which actually is true because
Yeah.
there actually is like a horror movie knockoff of Friday the 13th called Saturday the 14th.
And I think there's a
Sorry, go on.
I think there's a sequel to like Return of Saturday the 14th or something like that, or
But yeah,
so.
definitely not as famous as the Friday the 13th franchise. But anyways.
Yeah, I've only ever seen the first movie and bits and pieces of that. Since I am not a horror movie person, I will leave most of the talking up to you three about this series.
I've seen them all, and matter of fact, for my Twitter watch thread, I watched through all of them, like from like around end of February to sometime in May. Like that was like how long it took me to rewatch all of them. And then yesterday I rewatched 5 of the top ones because it was Friday the 13th in October, so of course I had to.
Oh yeah, definitely, because
I've
never been a Friday the 13th in October in a long time.
When was the last one?
A few years
since
ago,
like what?
as far as I know.
Years ago. It's rare to even have a Friday the 13th, I feel like.
Yeah, I do remember that there was one.
It's also rare to have a movie now.
But yeah,
because of all the legal issues. Like, that's the reason why they haven't made one in almost, like, over 15 years. Because...
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
Well, the lawsuit is quite simple if you actually break it down. And that's how you have to do it. Victor Miller owns stuff that is only in the first movie. Sean Cunningham owns the rest of the franchise. However, both parties need to come up with a deal to make the movie because Victor Miller owns the rights to Jason.
And it's funny because, well, number one, the one movie that had Victor Miller in the credits, yeah, Jason was in the movie, but he wasn't the killer.
Nope, and Jason didn't get his iconic hockey mask until the third film.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and what compounds the legal issues is that the first 8 movies were done by Paramount, and then the last 4 movies were primarily done by New Line Cinema.
And now it's now, and then New Line is Warner Brothers now.
Yeah, like New Line is Warner Brothers. Well, specifically, Warner Brothers owns New Line. Though it's a big. I mean, when we get to it, I can mention it again. But Paramount and New Line had to team up for the remake. Yep. My understanding, pretty much all the production was New Line, but Paramount had to be involved for one reason: to use the Friday the 13th name.
Yeah.
Because they retain the rights to the Friday the 13th name, which is why Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and Freddy vs. Jason, they don't use the Friday name anywhere. They're called Jason instead.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that after there was some deal that they literally made with New Line and Warner Brothers made with Inception, or something like that, to get the rights to the Friday the 13th name. Now
I actually recall Paramount getting the rights to keep the name, and then they started doing like Blu-ray releases of the. I mean, they still don't own the movies that New Line did, but they've been re-releasing the first 8 movies. Like, I think the one exception that I'm aware of anyway. I mean, I do know a friend who has like a steelbook of all 12 movies, But the most widely available collection where Paramount and New Line reached a deal and brought all the movies together in one package was the Shout Factory set. In fact, I could actually go get it.
Yeah. That came out in like 2019, I believe.
Yeah, which and now the people who are making the new movie is A24.
Which is funny because I heard that they tried to get the rights to Halloween, but they lost to Miramax.
It's funny because early reports were saying that A24 won, but then all of a sudden they were saying Miramax won. And it's funny because Miramax was like part owner of Halloween anyway. Like they've owned Halloween since Curse of Michael Myers, and like even the David Gordon Green trilogy, Universal may have distributed those, but Miramax was still a co-producer. But anyways,
Right.
This is the Shout Factory set.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie has their own case, so it eats up way more shelf space than it should. But
And all those DVDs work, right?
oh, they all work. I use them.
Yeah, because that's I heard how with Shout Factory some discs did not work. Which piece of advice if you're going to run a company, test your products before you ship them to people.
Yeah.
That is not exclusive to Shout Factory. I've gotten dead Blu-ray discs from I got the Stanley Kubrick Masterpiece Collection. The Shining disc inside there was dead. So I had to do a complicated return process with Warner Brothers where they gave me only the Shining disc.
Okay, how easy would it be? I mean, this is like, let's say you just give like a YouTuber or something. Hey, we will pay you $100 to sit there and say, hey, we just need you to put in the DVD and see if it works. If it does not, ship it back to us, and we will get a DVD. We're doing this as a review for the customers before we put them on store shelves. But anyway, let's get back to Friday the 13th because this could be a long-winded topic.
Last thing I will say about that, though, is if a disc doesn't work, it may not. It may be a problem where you don't notice it until like maybe an hour into the movie, and then it starts skipping.
Right.
But anyways, go on. Friday the 13th.
So last year we talked about when we talked about Halloween and Terminator, we talked about the different timelines. Is there one timeline or different timelines in Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th, it's all one timeline. Like basically the movies happen in chronological order. The one exception would be that Freddy vs. Jason's obviously before Jason X, and then the remake is a different timeline, but that's the only one.
I mean, and you could kind of Friday the 13th. I mean, it's not like clear different timelines. You know, like the remake. I mean, you could kind of argue that it's just another movie in some ways. Like if you just retitle that like Friday the 13th Returns or something like that. You know, because it's not really a remake. It's just basically another Jason movie. You know.
Yeah, it's more of a reboot than a remake. Like the only remake part is the opening credits and the whole thing about Jason getting his hockey mask and having
like basically the remake kind of combines elements of like the first 3 or 4 movies.
Pretty much,
right?
Yeah,
but it's more. But yeah, from what I saw during the behind the scenes, they were saying that nobody wanted to see a remake of the original movie. It's because there wouldn't be any suspense because everybody has seen the original movies, and they also said, okay, people go to a Friday the 13th movie to see Jason, and they go to see Jason wearing the hockey mask.
Yeah. And the first one, Jason wasn't even the killer.
Yeah, the first one, Jason wasn't the killer. The second one, he was not wearing the hockey mask.
I remember that because that was a question. That was a trivia topic in the Scream movie.
Scream. Yeah. Like Drew Barrymore's like giving like the pop quiz from Ghostface, and who was the killer in Friday the 13th? Jason! It was Jason! I'm sorry, Casey. That's the wrong answer. And it was Jason.
That's in the movie 20 times.
Fucking times. Then you should know it was Jason Mother. It's Voorhees that was the killer in the original movie. Jason didn't show up until a sequel.
What I at least like, though, I mean, I know Eric's the more Halloween fan here, but what I at least always liked about Jason is he kind of, like, out of all the slashers, there was always something about Jason where he always just seemed, I don't know, lack of a better word, like cooler than a lot of the other slashers, you know?
I mean, not to mention, I actually saw a tweet about this like a day or two ago. Kane Hodder, apparently, who was like probably the actor most associated with Jason, he played him in like the most out of all the actors.
He played him.
He said there was one movie where they wanted Jason to kick a dog down, killing it, and Kane Hodder refused, saying he didn't think Jason was that evil.
Well, I mean, yeah, Jason did. I mean, fans argue about it. They argue if Jason killed Muffin in part 2.
And also, I'm pretty sure across the whole series, Jason never kills any kids. I mean, teenagers, but like we're not talking like young kids.
I mean,
no,
he did try to kill Tommy Jarvis as a kid in part 4, but
he didn't succeed.
He didn't succeed.
I'd argue that was more self-defense in some ways.
But he still tried
to
kill him.
So in a way, you could say Michael Myers from Halloween beats Jason in the evil department because, well, Michael broke both of those. He's killed kids, he's killed animals. So
yeah, and well, I think that Jason, though, I don't know if I really buy into this. They think the reason why he probably wouldn't kill any kids because even though Jason is physically an adult, he still has the mental capacity of a child. Yeah. So he sees children as himself.
So for those who
we don't.
Sorry.
Which is probably why.
Because we don't know like what type of entity Jason is.
Which is probably why. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, for those who don't know, what is Jason's backstory?
So before we get into that, which is probably why then in part 4, at the very end, like when Tommy Jarvis shaved his head, basically he was trying to confuse Jason because, you know, that was Jason back when he was a kid. But anyway, so Jason's backstory. Who wants to go into that?
So Jason, in the 1950s, his mom was working at Camp Crystal Lake, and some teenagers went off to, they went off to go do it, and then Jason drowned in the lake. They were supposed to be watching them, and then Jason was never found. Somehow, in the early 80s, he may have survived the drowning and became kind of a curse of Crystal Lake, sort of. And they kind of hinted in Jason Goes to Hell that maybe Pamela used the Book of the Dead to resurrect Jason, but that's kind of debatable by fans. So
let's just say across all the movies, they never really settle on a full explanation for why Jason is completely immortal.
Which I think only
right
to it because they made that mistake with Michael Myers, giving him a backstory and for why he's immortal and all that, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and what, you know, one of the things I always kind of also appreciate, you know, at least with Jason too, one of the reasons why he's probably my favorite slasher is because, first of all, I mean, you know, I'm a guy. We're all guys. Jason, the Friday the 13th girls are some of the most beautiful women on screen.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I'm a fan of Megan. That's my favorite because any girl that can drive a Camaro like that. Piece of advice to any guys: if a girl can drive a Camaro like that, she's a keeper. So,
Yeah.
Now,
so
is Jason like one of the few slashers that actually have a reason for being a killer?
Yeah, I would say so. It's because that Jason did witness his own mother getting beheaded, like by a teenager, which is why that Jason has such a hatred, like towards teenagers coming in and to his lake and having sex. It's because that it's because of his past experiences with his mom. So it sounds like for Jason, it's more so of like a revenge story.
James Roll of cinematic, it's kind of territorial in some ways. Like he's kind of just like I don't really want to say like a vicious dog. Like a dog, you're just territory, so he's defending it.
Speaking of vicious dogs, there is the most vicious, ferocious dog.
Yeah, especially when Eric does his. Yeah, especially when you do your Arnold impression.
You filthy chopper! No.
By the way, off topic, real fast. Has Snick's dog and Simba's dog met yet?
Nah. Or I may have shown mine to the webcam. But
excuse me.
I mean, you can never tell if dogs can really tell what webcams are. So
yeah. But yeah, so I
don't know.
For everyone here,
hey Simba.
Simba. Simba, dad.
He's more.
So in the first movie,
he's more distracted by the kitten.
What was the
right now? Simba's like, dude, what do you want me for? I'm going back to bed.
So in the first movie, were the kids that were the kids that he killed in the first movie, or she killed in the first movie, connected to his drowning at all?
No, it was just his mom basically being insane.
Well,
like the counselors.
Well, only the in the novelization, and we can argue all day if novelizations are canon or not because it's based on original scripts. I mean, spoiler alert for a movie that's almost 50 years old. The beginning kills. It is theorized that those might be the teenagers that were making love, and then Pamela killed them. So, but that's kind of debatable by fans. So
yeah, well, for most of the movie, the ones that Pamela kills, well, so the movie has Camp Crystal Lake reopening after at least years, and like there's already a stigma around Camp Crystal Lake because people around town are saying it's cursed, and basically Pamela wants to kill the counselors because she doesn't want it to reopen,
which I can totally why.
Yeah.
And it's actually a rather interesting story about how Betsy Palmer got involved with the movie because she had a car that broke down and she really needed the money for a new car. And then her agent offered her Friday the 13th, and he or she was like, "Hey Betsy, I got good news. I found a movie for you that could help pay for you to get a new car." She was like, "Great," but the bad news is it's a horror movie. And she was like, "Oh no!" And then Betsy Palmer and then read the script and she called it a piece of shit. And it's so crazy to think that a movie that she highly contested against ended up being the movie that she's most remembered for.
And the funny thing is, even though she never returned as Pamela Voorhees, she actually did kind of embrace the fandom. I think she did start interacting with fans years afterward.
Yeah, she did. She did all these cons, but I do know that she did actually make a cameo in Friday the 13th Part 2.
But it was only a cameo.
Yeah.
It was.
I know they did approach her about returning like several times in later sequels, but she kept declining.
Oh, Bug left.
I'm still here.
Oh. Oh, okay. I was like, I guess he left. But
His
yeah.
camera's off.
But yeah, so one thing I will say about the original Friday the 13th is so for one thing, not even the original movie, like even from the original movie, the Friday the 13th movies, you can't, for the most part, you really can't take them serious as horror movies. You're basically there for like the kills, the stupid moments, and even the first movie that holds true. But I will say, Betsy Palmer, they don't even really try to hide the fact that she's the killer, because number one, she doesn't show up until the she doesn't show her face until the very end, and
which makes it so obvious.
Yeah, and they make it like she's just like there to help for like maybe 5 minutes, maybe not even, and then she goes insane, like she reveals herself as the killer. Like they don't even try to hide it.
Yeah.
In fairness, Betsy Palmer does a really great job in the role.
Yeah, and
it would
have been so much better like if she was there the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, Betsy Palmer though, it was for you. There's this. She had a very interesting career even before Friday the 13th. She worked with Jack Lemmon in a movie.
Oh.
She was a game show. She was like I guess the best. She was also then known for being a co-host for a game show. This would be the only way I could describe this. Now, I'm not that I'm comparing them by any means, but I'm trying to explain this for modern audiences. This would be like if Vanna White did a horror movie.
Right.
And so, it's like it's like if you heard Vanna White is doing a horror movie, like what? So it was one of those shocking casting decisions, and shockingly enough, she was not the original actress they asked. Do you guys know who the original actress was? They asked to be Pamela.
Who?
I'm not sure if Eric and Snicks will know who she is. Vandalion might. Shelley Winters.
Oh, I know who that is. Wasn't she in Poseidon Adventure?
Yes, she was the grandma.
Yeah.
Which I do like her as an actress, but like I just can't see her as Pamela because it's like gosh.
So speaking of Pamela Voorhees, I know I mentioned this to Junebug, and I've been saying this for like 20 years now. Who I think would have made an excellent Pamela Voorhees, Kathy Bates.
Was she acting by then? Because
now I'm not.
I think he's more meaning like
I mean Kathy Bates like 80s, 90s, 2000s, just any one of those times.
Because I'm just saying,
Kathy Bates. Yeah. I mean, especially after seeing her like in Misery, Kathy Bates would have been perfect as Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see it.
See, I got an interesting choice for Pamela if they bring back Pamela in the new one. You guys might know she was more of a child actress, but she is coming back. She has continued acting. Tatum O'Neal.
I'm not sure.
Sounds familiar.
She was. She's famous because she's the youngest actress ever to win an Academy Award. She was 10 years old.
Wow.
What?
For Paper Moon is the movie, but Tatum O'Neal. First of all, like you kind of like Google pictures of her now. She does kind of look like Betsy Palmer now, and I think would really pull it off. Because she even for Academy Award winning actress, she would be a lot cheaper than any actress that we could think of. Plus, she has name recognition, so
she does.
And so that's my choice at least. But then my choice for Jason is an actor that Eric and I know.
You're talking about Daniel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Daniel would be perfect as Jason Voorhees. But yeah,
Daniel who?
His name is Daniel Gilchrist. Okay. Now the only reason I'm casting him is because he's 7'7". But they're talking as far as like the new movie, what they're talking about. Which, by the way, I'm going to so-called baloney on what they're talking about with the new Friday the 13th because as far as we know right now, it's going to be made on Peacock, right?
That's what I heard.
A TV. Well, Warner Brothers still has HBO Max or Max now.
I call it HBO.
And they have HBO Max. They have rights in Discovery, but they're not going to put Friday the 13th on Discovery. And Peacock is owned by Universal. And I don't see them, putting Friday the 13th on a competitor's streaming service with Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Paramount was trying to buy the rights to the Halloween franchise, and Paramount obviously owns the rights to the first 8 Friday the 13th movies, which I kind of wish that would have happened, just so that way we could finally get Jason versus Michael Myers.
Or Jason versus Ghostface, because Paramount is the current owner of Scream.
Yeah.
So are these movies all connected, or are they standalone movies?
The Friday the 13th movies,
yeah.
They are technically connected. Like, basically, the first 4 movies are kind of an ongoing story arc. Then the movies 5 through 8 they're technically a new story, but they're a lot more standalone. Like, I would say starting with the 5th movie, they start to get a lot more standalone. And the thing is, they have, aside from Jason himself, there's like almost no recurring characters. Like, the one survivor of the first movie, she returns for part 2 and then dies in the opening.
So basically, it's like Halloween Resurrection.
Kind.
Well, yeah. Well, you guys know the reason why Adrienne King was going to be the Laurie Strode of the franchise, but you guys know the reason why she did not come. She chose not to, even continue acting, right?
I believe that it's because she had like a real life person trying to kill her, right?
Or like a stalker, right?
She had a stalker. Basically, it was a. Now, listen, I understand. They're celebrities and everything. And we get. We become, we become fans, but there's a difference between a fan and an obsessive fan. He looked her up in the phone book and was basically doing the whole Ghostface thing with her. And she had to, she quit acting for the longest time. And that's why she chose not to come back. Then they were going to replace her with Amy Steele, which a lot of fans say that she is the best final girl.
Oh, yeah.
I have to agree.
Oh, yeah.
And Amy Steele, then, they asked her to come back, and she said no. And then, then eventually they did have a hero with Tommy Jarvis, but they couldn't keep an actor to play Tommy Jarvis was the thing.
Yeah, like I think in the fourth movie he was played by Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously best known for the Goonies and like.
Yeah.
Yep, and then Corey did briefly reprise his role in the beginning of Part 5, but the reason why it was a cameo was because his career really was starting to take off, and they only had him for just one day. So what they did was to accommodate for his schedule, they filmed in like his front or backyard.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
they
they
filmed-
aged Tommy Jarvis up to adult age.
Well, that's the interesting thing, even about the Friday the 13th. We were talking about the timeline. So it's kind of funny to watch it, funny in an ironic way, because if you actually pay attention to the timeline, Jason Takes Manhattan is supposed to take place in 2002, and there's a shot where you see the Twin Towers,
Right.
and it's just kind of like,
I mean,
it's just kind of one of those like,
to be fair, they had no idea that was going to happen at that time.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's more ironic. Is like would be the best term,
Do you want
because
some irony? Do you want? I mean, Alma in chat's gonna know this story. There is a video game called Deus Ex. It was like a first person shooter kind of RPG released in 2000.
oh,
And apparently, so a good chunk of the game takes place in New York City. I guess the background skybox, they didn't have enough room to render the Twin Towers. And keep in mind, this was the year 2000, so they were still up. And they decided to explain them away by saying they were destroyed in a terrorist attack because the game was set in the future in like 2050 something.
well, to be fair, they were attacked like before that, so
yeah, the World Trade Center bombing in '93.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's just that's something interesting about the Friday the 13th movies, that it's like, so okay, it gets confusing. So the first five, the first four like take place pretty much like all in like 1984. The first four, and then the fifth one jumps 6 years, 1989, I believe. And then the Jason Lives takes place in 1990, and then 91, and then that one jumps 10 years. So it's 2001, and then Jason Takes Manhattan takes place in 2002, and then Jason Goes to Hell takes place in 2003, along with Freddy vs. Jason, which is ironic because it was released in 2023.
Which is, and what's ironic about Jason Takes Manhattan is that there's a billboard in the distance where you can see like an ad for Batman 89 when it's supposed to take place in like 2002.
Well, in Jason,
for fans, I don't know.
Well, Eric, come on! They were in Jason's universe. They were doing a re-release for the 13th anniversary.
Oh, a huge missed opportunity for the franchise. Huge missed opportunity to release a new movie in 2013. That was a huge missed opportunity.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but at least in 2013, at least we got the Crystal Lake Memories documentary. So at least we got.
Oh, somebody in chat mentioned how The Room kept up a billboard because Tommy had like an infinite bank account. It was 5 years he kept it up, but yeah, he paid to keep that billboard up for pretty much no reason other than he could.
And where did he get that money?
We don't know.
So
I wish I had his money.
We all do.
I've heard some people complain that after like the first four movies, Jason and them jumped the shark by going to space and Manhattan and all that stuff.
It's ironic because Jason X is actually pretty damn enjoyable because it knows what the fuck it is.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think it jumped the shark. You see, Jason, I think is one of the very few slash you could put him in any situation and it kind of works.
Yeah.
Because Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, first of all, let me just say that is the greatest teaser trailer, one of the greatest teasers of all time. Has anybody seen it?
I don't think so.
Yeah. You're talking about the trailer for Jason Takes Manhattan, right?
Right. That is like the best trailer, one of the best trailers. So what it is it's Jason on the Jersey, he's on Ellis Island, and you have Frank Sinatra, New York, New York, play as it pans down, and you see Jason looking over New York, and then they just cut to some New York mayhem with Jason, and oh my gosh, I mean, it is probably one of the best teasers ever because it just does what it's supposed to do, and that was the only marketing they did for it, really. And Jason X, I mean, yeah, it knows what it is. It's basically Friday the 13th turned into a B movie. I wouldn't say it jumped the shark, It's just kind of like the fun movie of the franchise,
Yeah, Jason X. It's not a good movie by any means, but I'm not gonna lie. It's very entertaining. I do find it a guilty pleasure. I mean, heck, going back to what Schnick said, it knows what it is. I mean, it's so self-aware. Especially during the part where he says, "Oh, it's okay, guys. He just wants his machete back."
Yeah, and
no, the way for the watch thread I do on Twitter, I summed it up like this. So this movie is stupid. The premise is stupid. The characters are stupid. The acting is stupid. The kills are stupid. The movie is stupid. And it wouldn't have been as much fun if it wasn't.
Yeah,
It has no shame.
Yeah, and give Jason X props because it knew what it was. Unlike that Winnie the Pooh horror movie, which was taking itself way too seriously. I'm like, okay, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey didn't know what it was. Wow, Jason X knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I will disagree with him about the kills. I think Jason X has some of the best kills in the franchise. Especially when he freezes that girl's head and then he smashes it.
Yeah.
One of the best kills in the whole entire
when I say stupid, it's just that freaking they're stupid the good, funny kind of way.
Yeah.
So how did Jason go from being a camp killer to New Yorker space?
In Jason Takes Manhattan, he went on a boat.
And it should be known, most of Jason Takes Manhattan takes place on that boat.
Which will disappoint a lot of people. But Jason Takes Manhattan, I have a soft spot for it because that actually was the first Jason movie that I ever saw. So,
the way I summed up Jason Takes Manhattan is, yeah, it's considered one of the weakest movies in the series because of the missed potential of actually putting him in New York City. Because the thing is, when they were filming the movie, I think they only had 1 or 2 actual days of filming in New York City.
But yeah, and the reason for that is because New York is notoriously expensive to film it.
So
Mm-hmm.
they didn't, and my understanding is they didn't make the most of it. They didn't get too much filming time there, and I think they had to get some other city to double for the New York scenes.
Vancouver.
So, I mean, I will say, it's not as much of a dud as fans make it out to be, because number one, it has some decent kills in there.
Yes, it does.
I think my favorite kill in the movie is when the guy starts boxing Jason on the roof. They draw it out as long as humanly possible with him punching Jason. Jason just takes it like a champ. Then finally the boxer gets tired of punching Jason, and Jason just throws a single punch back that knocks his head clean
Punches
off,
his head off.
and that head tumbles down the roof into a dumpster.
Yeah, like, as bad as Jason Takes Manhattan was, at least it had some memorable moments like that. And the other memorable moment is when Jason's walking on the sidewalk, he kicks those gangsters like radio, and then they're like, "What are you doing, punk?" And then he lifts up his mask, and they're like, "Okay, man, it's cool."
Yeah, like Jason just has some sass to it. And that was one of the scenes they did get in New York City because that was at Times Square.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
I would just, first of all, I'm just going to say this for anybody who wants to make a Friday the 13th movie and you want to do your trilogy like Halloween, that's how you end your trilogy. Jason Takes Back Manhattan.
Oh, definitely.
And you actually just tell Warner Brothers, give us the budget to film in New York City. Have Jason, I don't know, have a fight scene on the Statue of Liberty. Go all out. Have a fight scene on.
Now,
have him be like King Kong.
Now, here's the question: because Scream 6 took the Jason Takes Manhattan premise with because Ghostface took Manhattan in that movie. Now, number one, the whole movie does take place in New York City. The only question I don't know is, did they film the whole movie there?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that they did have the whole movie in the city, like not unlike Jason Takes Manhattan.
Which is funny, just because in Scream 6, you actually do see Jason Takes Manhattan on the TV.
I didn't know. I have to rewatch the movie now.
So what's the storyline of him going up on the rocket ship or space, or however he was?
So what happened in Jason X is what I think they were about to cryogenically freeze him because they've decided this guy's not gonna die, so the best we could do is cryogenically freeze him. And they almost fuck it up because I think I'd have to rewatch the movie because I can't remember exactly what happens, but he almost gets free, and one of the scientists trying to freeze him ends up getting locked in the cryo chamber with him. But then the two of them get frozen, and it goes forward like centuries into the future where both of them are woken up.
It's something like that. Basically, they captured Jason, and that basically, I think, or something. Didn't they say that? I think they also established or something that first of all, the movie takes place in 2009.
The opening.
And and then they say it's like they were going to freeze him as basically capital punishment because good old Sparky would not work, and I would love to see somebody attempt to try to lethal injection Jason Voorhees.
That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then the funny thing is, Jason Goes to Hell has its own unique premise. So the movie opens with some woman driving to a cabin. Of course, they get a nude scene where she goes in the shower and everything. And that sets off the Jason alarm. Jason needs to go shut that shit down. And so she starts running for the hills. Turns out it was a setup. There's an entire firing squad of people. She hits the dirt, and they just unload into Jason, and he actually supposedly dies.
I had, and Creighton Duke has to be one of the, most badass horror heroes of all time. Steve Williams was awesome in that, and Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, but so the premise of Jason Goes to Hell is that even though his body was destroyed, his soul is now able to go possess like other people. And basically what he's trying to do is, this is where they establish how like Pamela Voorhees did like this evil ritual to like make him immortal. What he needs is for his soul to possess the body of a member of his family so that his like real body can come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of Jason Goes to Hell's more criticized aspects, that you don't see the real Jason for most of the movie. For most of it, it's just his soul possessing people.
So, real fast. So, is Jason Goes to Hell and Jason in Space on the same timeline, or are they're
the same?
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
They both made my new line, but yeah. And what's interesting about Jason Goes to Hell is that there's that brief moment where Jason in a possessed body speaks, and I'm like, okay, Jason's pretty well spoken for somebody who hasn't spoken in so many years. And the one cringy moment of Jason Goes to Hell is that infamous shaving scene. Like, there was no point to having that.
This ties into the earlier movies. When I was watching Jason Goes to Hell coming in from like the last few Paramount movies, the thing is, the MPAA cracked down hard on the Friday the 13th movie, starting with like part 4 or part 5. Like, lots of the gore that they were intending to have had to be trimmed out, or else they would get an X rating. Like, it got so bad by part 7 that the Shout Factory Blu-ray actually has all the cut gore as a test footage as a bonus feature.
Yeah, like Friday the 13th part 7 is notorious for being the most censored version, and Friday part 7 actually is one of my favorites of the whole series, but it's just such a shame that the MPAA was being so uptight about the whole series.
Well,
back then DVDs were not a thing, so
yeah. And that's where I had to give Jason Goes to Hell some praise, because they actually got a lot more blood and gore past the MPAA, and there's even it also helps that there's an unrated cut of the movie.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So,
and then one last thing with Jason Goes to Hell, the ending where you see Jason's mask in the dirt and then Freddy's clawed hand comes out and pulls it under, that was hinting at Freddy versus Jason. It took 10 years to get made, but it happened.
So it was a direct sequel?
Well, kind of.
Interesting bit of trivia. So, that actually was Kane Hodder playing.
Yeah, Kane Hodder was Freddy's clawed hand.
And interesting to mention Kane Hodder, because this year I definitely became more of a Friday the 13th fan, especially because of my encounter with Kane Hodder's agent on Valentine's Day. I mean, Kane Hodder's agent is the one who gave me the keys to the Screen Actors Guild. So yeah, after that, I definitely became more of a Friday the 13th fan because of that. So
yeah,
it does make it all the more tragic that Kane Hodder didn't actually get to be in Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, man, that sucks. And I watched a documentary about Kane Hodder on Tubi. He said that he took that really hard on an emotional level, the fact that he didn't get to be in Freddy versus Jason.
And unfortunately, it was due to freaking executives. Apparently, because the guy they got to play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, thankfully it was somebody who was associated with the series. I know his first name's Ken. I can't pronounce his last name. Yeah, he was in Jason Takes Manhattan. Specifically, he was the bartender that Jason freaking pummels when he's chasing the main characters through a bar. The reason they wanted him in Freddy vs. Jason was specifically because he was taller and bulkier than Kane Hodder, and they wanted that to contrast with Robert Englund as Freddy.
So where in
which
I was gonna say, fast. So in the crossover, where in the adjacent timeline does it meet up with the Nightmare timeline?
Basically after everything in the Nightmare timeline, except for Wes Craven's new Nightmare, as that's an alternate timeline.
Yeah, pretty much. So Freddy versus Jason just ignores new Nightmare.
Well, the thing with New Nightmare is that essentially it's in the real world where like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are like a big, like it follows like the real people who made the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and basically the Freddy in that movie is sort of an entity that took on Freddy's form in the real world. So yeah, and like it follows Wes Craven in real life. It follows Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy, I think her name was, in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Oh, so
Yeah.
So I remember when I was in like the 6th grade, I actually wrote a Halloween fan script, which pretty much was New Nightmare, but instead it was with Halloween.
Yeah.
So
it would have been Jamie Curtis and John Carpenter having to cope with freaking entity that took Michael Myers' form, huh?
But yeah, I did get kind of morbid with it. Like, I explained in my script that the real reason why Donald Pleasance died was because Michael Myers killed him in real life. And yeah, I got a little bit too morbid there.
I mean, in fairness, slightly freaking I'm pretty sure the production of Curse of Michael Myers was not pleasant for Donald Pleasance, considering that he died during production.
I think he had cancer by the time they started filming. That's one of the
man was also really old. So
he was, and that's why that it actually got the subtitle "Curse of Michael Myers" is because everybody making the movie felt like that it was cursed because of how miserable it was to.
And the lead producer, they suggested that title as a joke, and the lead producer took it literally.
And also, what's funny, even James Rolfe even commented the really odd coincidence
with the Pink Panther movies.
Yeah, like
which then
because of that.
Well, then I'm surprised. I'm surprised that the next one then wasn't son of Michael Myers. Because that would be the next in the Pink Panther movies.
Which actually would have made sense because the Michael Myers did have a kid like with Jamie. So.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you, Eric. Well, one of the I actually had an idea for a new Friday the 13th movie. Eric actually does know it, and I had an idea to bring back Tommy Jarvis at older because, well, Tommy Jarvis is the closest, Jason has to a Van Helsing, Dr. Loomis type, and I was going to explain it why you haven't seen Tommy in a long time is that Tommy joined the military and basically became like a Rambo type of guy. And then he teams up with Creighton Duke, who is now. I was debating. Okay, does he have a wheelchair? I know Adam Marcus in interview says that Creighton Duke is alive and he has a back brace, but I'm just like, well, what if he doesn't? Like, he just has he just has a cane now. Even though he broke his back. And then one of the things I was going to do that was, I was kind of going to try to end this whole thing about, it's the good girls in that always the final girls. I thought, well, the promiscuous girls of love, her the final girl, So that was the one of the ideas that I had, and I mean, Eric, I don't know if it's going to happen. You can tell you could tell who we were thinking of to play Tommy Jarvis, since he one of his dream roles was to play Jason.
But yeah, so when watching the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, Hugh Jackman said that the reason why he even got into acting was because his dream role is to play Jason.
So we thought about offering him something better and have him maybe play Tommy Jarvis instead of Jason, you know? Since with Hugh Jackman, I don't know if the studio would allow him to be much in a hockey mask, you know, the entire movie, you know?
Probably because they would want to have his face shown. I mean,
Right,
to be
so
fair,
just have
to be fair, Jason has been unmasked in movies plenty of times, so
yeah, but so that's at least one of the things that, you know, we were thinking about, and because I really want to see. I mean, listen, I want to see a new Friday the 13th, but I am if first of all, if I'm not even going to bash A24 because, you know, it's kind of just the cliche to do on the internet. But if A24 is doing it, fine. But I just don't want to see what they're talking about doing. A Pamela Voorhees prequel. You know, that's what they're talking about doing. Like, that just does not appeal to me. You know?
yeah.
So, about this reboot, you think it's a good idea or a bad idea?
I can see why that they rebooted it. Originally, I heard it was supposed to be directed by the guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, Jonathan, whatever his last name was. He also, I believe, directed the 2014 TMNT. He was supposed to direct the 2019 Friday the 13th, but that didn't work out. So instead, they got the other director, like who did the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like from Platinum Dunes, Marcus Nispel. I can see why that they rebooted it, because at that time, horror movie reboots like were the thing to do at that time. So
I actually like the
Rob Zombie Halloween. We had the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah.
I actually like the I like the prequel or the remake. You know, it's I mean, I don't really even see it as much of a I don't even see it as much of a remake. It's more just another movie, you know, pretty much.
Yeah,
The remake of Friday is pretty solid, yeah.
yeah. Rambo Raff for Life in his review said, yeah, if you were to just cut out like the beginning with with his mom, the argument could be made that maybe you could have this just be Friday the 13th Part 12.
Well, even then, though, I don't know. I mean,
but the potato sack
many franchises. I mean, many franchises though have recasted, you know, said parts and flashback scenes. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of just worked. I mean, if you title it like Friday the 13th, Part 12. Return to Crystal Lake, you know, something like that. I mean, if let's put it this way: if they decided to, if Paramount or New Line decide to sit there and say, "Oh, we're going to do what George Lucas did with Friday the 13th," you know, retitled the remake, I think the fans would be like, "Okay, really? But okay, cool." I don't think fans would care that much, you know?
I don't think so.
Because I mean, I'll say this. I'm just going to say this. Friday the 13th fans have to be some of the more peaceful horror slasher fans.
Yeah, because some of the Halloween fans I've encountered have been nasty.
Yeah, like, you have Halloween fans who cannot freaking decide what timelines they consider canon, what movies they like or dislike. Like, they're still fans. like, even though the David Gordon Green trilogy freaking kind of brought Michael Myers back to, like, his former glory from the very original movie, you still have fans who think the original movie, 2, and H2O are the only movies that should exist.
And there's also fans still upset that H2O ignored 4, 5, and 6. I'm like, okay, H2O came out nearly 30 years ago now. Get over it. And 2, the reason why H2O ignored those movies was because Halloween 6 didn't do well at the box office. And so it more so was a business move.
And what those fans will try to latch onto is that there was originally a plan to consider 4 through 6 canon with H2O, because there was a scene where one of Laurie's students would like do like a essay on quote unquote the Haddonfield murders, and like it would culminate with them mentioning Jamie's death, after which Laurie would go to the bathroom to kind of puke.
Yeah, but to be fair, I am glad that they didn't have that, because I think that would have made Laurie Strode a lot less sympathetic, knowing that she abandoned her daughter. So
yeah.
Well, there's nothing directly saying that it ignores it, really. I mean, I know, like, some people.
The only clue they give that H2O is not in the 4 through 6 timeline is that they mention that Michael has not been seen in like almost 20 years. Like, they mention that after the events of the original Halloween 2, Michael was just gone. And because of that wouldn't be true if 4 through 6 was canon.
Yeah.
True,
So,
but like...
I'm gonna say Junebug mentioned this, but I want to hear your guys' opinions on they're talking about a prequel for Jason Friday the 13th. He said he doesn't want one, but what are you guys' opinion about it?
Opinion about what? Sorry.
About prequel to Friday the 13th.
I think it could work. I would want to, find out more about Jason's father, which I do know that they were going to do that with that reboot that was supposed to come out in 2017, but it got canceled. And I know Jason's father was supposed to be in Friday the 13th Part 6, but that got cut. So yeah. So what about Jason's father?
I mean, on one hand, it's like, is that an important bit of info for the series?
I certainly wouldn't feel so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be interested as long as they get one actor that I can think of to play, and he's not much of an actor, but if he played Elias Voorhees, I think fans would get behind it. As long as they get the Undertaker as Elias Voorhees.
The Undertaker?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that's who I want to play Elias Voorhees.
But yeah, and the reason why the Friday the 13th reboot, the second one, got canceled was because Rings underperformed.
I would have thought it would have been because of the Victor Miller lawsuit, because that was around the time the Friday the 13th game had to
end yeah.
Because they made a Friday the 13th game, and they added a whole bunch of content, and they were getting up to the point where they were about to do an update that added content from Jason X, and they had to cancel it because the Victor Miller lawsuit meant they no longer had the rights to do anything for the game.
So you're not talking about the NES games then?
No.
Funny thing about that, they actually put in a costume for Jason based on his appearance in the NES game.
That's funny.
They knew what the hell they were doing.
I first found out about the NES game because of James Rolfe.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually have an original Nintendo, and thank you. Let me just say, thank you, James Rolfe. I had to talk down the people for the price, because thanks to James Rolfe. James, I love you, but thank you so much. Guess how much the game was? I had to talk them down on the price at the used game store. $125.
Wow, for that game?
Yeah, and because I had store credit, I also gave them some DVDs and everything that day. I managed to get them down $50.
Oh my god. Yeah, I would
And I'm
not
like,
pay
well,
$125 for that crap. I will say that is one of my favorite endings to an AVGN episode. Like, so what happened? So of course he goes the whole episode pretending he likes the game, or else Jason's gonna kill him. Then he executes Jason, and then you have his last line of dialogue: "This game is fucking horrible." Like,
yeah,
one of his most genuinely angry lines in the entire AVGN series.
Yeah.
And still to this day, that's one of the best episodes because of how he's being sarcastic, but Jason doesn't understand that he's being sarcastic.
Yeah, freaking. And I don't know why one of the funnier scenes is like the first time where Jason chases him, like James Rolfe is kind of like half serious when he's like running away, and then he gets cornered, and then he's like, "What? Don't kill me!" Shows him the cartridge.
Kill me.
Kill me.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's my thing though. I think that I just want to stress, like, the prequel, it's just like, I'm just not that interested. Like, if they did it, it wouldn't be like a case like with, like, other franchises. I'm not going to mention any names that I'm a fan of that I just would outright refuse to see now because they're modern adaptations now. But because I'm such a Friday the 13th fan, I would be curious about it just because, Jason has always been my favorite slasher. I can't even put my finger on why. I think it's just because, like, I think with Halloween, like, Michael just always got very convoluted, even when we were growing up, and now he's even more convoluted. And, like, but Jason just always kind of, he always just seemed like the coolest out of all the slashers, Freddy was just kind of, at least to me, like, Freddy was at his scariest when he was taken seriously, but then even by the third one, he was kind of treated more like a clown.
Yeah.
But Jason, at least the people who made Jason, they always knew what he was. He was just a mindless killer.
Yeah.
And so, like, I never felt like they really spoiled the character. They ruined the character more of Jason, if that makes any sense, in any of the movies. They always kind of knew what he was.
Like, I would say out of all slasher villains, I think the one who come, like, closest to, like, how they've understood, like, in that respect, I'd say the other slasher villain that comes close to that would maybe be Ghostface, but Ghostface is a lot more flexible because it's a different Ghostface killer in every movie. But, like, a lot of them
just ironically
tend to be similar. Like, it's a lot of it's like satire of, like, horror movies and, like, society at the time.
So we mentioned Freddy and Jason. Is there any other crossovers with Jason you would want to see?
Well, there was a comic series where it was Freddy versus Jason versus Ash from Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I think I would just want to see that. Jason versus Ash.
I do remember that I read that a really long time ago.
I haven't read it. I only know it exists. Oh,
it's a very interesting comic.
I believe there were plans for, like, a PS2 game of Freddy versus Jason, but apparently it only made it to, like, the concept stage, and they had to cancel it.
I never heard about that.
It was on the Wikipedia page, but I don't know if it's fully accurate.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now they can finally do it because I believe Warner Brothers put out the last Hellraiser movie, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Huh.
I believe they can do it as long as they. I'm not bashing the actress that played Pinhead, but as long as they don't get her back. But I just didn't think she was that intimidating as Pinhead. I would honestly want to see Jason versus Pinhead.
The funny thing is, there
Which-
were plans for a Michael Myers versus Pinhead in the mid 2000s.
Which actually was going to be directed by John Carpenter.
Whoa.
So what would a Michael Myers meets Jason movie be like then? Can't think of anything.
That is a tough question to answer. But you know, one thing that was kind of unfortunate, that we got both Freddy and Jason in Mortal Kombat, but no recreating Freddy versus Jason because they were in separate games. Freddy was in Mortal Kombat 9, Jason was in Mortal Kombat 10.
Which is such a shame.
I mean, they did give us a slasher villain for Jason to fight. They gave us Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I don't know why that they didn't have Freddy and Jason in the same game.
Yeah.
And, missed opportunity.
Especially since they also had the Alien and the Predator in Mortal Kombat 10, so we were able to recreate that.
But yeah, and one.
Well, maybe they're saving it for Mortal Kombat 12.
Maybe.
Well, technically, Mortal Kombat 1, the new game, is Mortal Kombat 12.
And it's not the Robert Englund version; it's the Jackie Earl. Haley.
See, that's interesting. For Mortal Kombat 9, it was Jackie Earl Haley's likeness, but they had Robert Englund doing the voice.
Okay.
I mean, you know why they did that, right?
Why?
It was to promote the movie because it was brand new at the time. I think.
True, but also the Jackie Earl Haley version was cheaper than the Robert Englund version. The likeness. So even video game executives are cheap, you know.
It's very confusing how they got Robert Englund's voice, but not his likeness.
That is
well, think about it. I mean, his voice is probably cheaper than his likeness, so
that is
because
considering all the James Bond games that had Pierce Brosnan's likeness but not his voice, except for one game.
Everything or
nothing.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, for a lot of those Bond games, like I know, like Nightfire, they couldn't afford to use Pierce Brosnan's likeness, so they kind of did amalgamation of all of the James Bonds at the time. And
you might be thinking of Agent Under Fire, where what happened was Pierce Brosnan was renewing his contract, which meant they couldn't use him. So instead, they got another guy called Andrew Bicknell, I think his name was, and they used his likeness for Agent Under Fire, and they were about to use his likeness again for Nightfire, but then Pierce Brosnan got everything cleared up, and then they used Brosnan's likeness again.
And now, since you said that, I just want to see James Bond meets Friday the 13th now.
That would be interesting. But so we've been going on for a while now, and I got a 12-hour shift tomorrow, so probably sure.
So before we go, you guys, anything you guys want to advertise on your channels?
I guess I could go first because I'll be quick. I started doing a little more gameplay videos. Like I started doing some Like, I started doing, I put up gameplay videos sometimes, and I also started doing some sketches in Gary's mod to kind of tie into, like, SFM picture sketches I put on Twitter every now and then, and for my Discord friends. So, check those out. I might be planning an SFM animation for Christmas, because I wanted to do it last year, but I didn't have the time. Basically, I'm going to get my friend DL Jado to fight AVGN.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, for me, I got some more episodes of Let's Watch a Movie. Gonna stream on my channel. I'm pleasantly surprised by how much views my Vincent Price one got. So I'm gonna look into live streaming more public domain horror movie documentaries because of how well my Vincent Price one did. I have some movie reviews coming up, and of course, my third Things That Piss Me Off movie. I actually now have merchandise, which definitely could help with investing in better equipment and everything else, like for my future movies. So yeah, please be sure to check out the merch for my Things That Piss Me Off movies, and Vandalia and Junebug also have them on the same site as well.
Mm-hmm. We are. Let's see. I guess I could announce it here. Me and Eric on the next episode of Sit Down by the Fire are interviewing Lexi. What's her last name?
I forget her last name, but yeah, she was the one who went viral because she was awestruck when she met Tracy Lynn Cruz, who was the Yellow Ranger in Power Rangers Turbo and in Power Rangers in Space. So,
and we're going to interview her on next episode, Sit Down by the Fire. And all I will tease is we are also talking to. All I'll say is this: she gets for Friday the 13th. So, Eric, get the duct tape for your mouth. So don't spoil anything. But I'll just speak for this Friday the 13th stream. Eric and I have talked to people associated with Friday the 13th as a possibility for Sit Down by the Fire to interview. So,
hello, Explorer.
And I also have merch at Pop Tees along with Vandalian and Eric. And just remember, the merch that you guys buy, eventually can probably buy better equipment for Eric, Vandalian, and me. All of it will go right back to the channel. Just keep in mind with that, bills come up. So sometimes, we might have to maybe pay the electric bill with the merch versus maybe a better camera, because Eric does not want to be streaming and all of a sudden his lights turn off.
Yeah. So I do have an Amazon wish list down below. If you want to just want to buy directly new equipment from me, that'd be great too.
Yes. So Pop Tees, it's Pop Tees at .com. So
as for me, next week I'll be going back to the History Channel to talk about the early American history, the Articles of Confederation, the precursor of the Constitution, and see how that failed miserably. Why we needed the Constitution.
All right.
Thank you, James Madison, for the Constitution.
But till then, never stop learning. Enjoy the randomness. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Later.